Hello students, today's module is on contemporary social movements. After studying this module, you shall be able to understand nature and concepts of various contemporary social movements, understand the role of social movements in social change, evaluate the relevance and importance of contemporary social movements in present scenario. Social movements are organized collective efforts working towards achieving change. All social movements have an ideology to identify what is wrong with the present and what needs to be done in future. Social movements are a type of group action for changing problematic situations. They are large, sometimes informal groupings of individuals and organizations which focus on specific political and social issues. Contemporary social movements are mainly classified into the following 9 types based on the socio-economic characteristic of the participants and the issues involved. These include peasant movements, tribal movements, Dalit movements, backward class movements, women's movements, individual working class movement, students movements, middle class movements, human rights and environment movements. Coming to peasant movements, peasants in India generally represent a huge mass of landless agricultural laborers, sharecroppers, tenants, poor artisans and small and marginal cultivators, and a close social interface with the socially deprived people like scheduled tribes, scheduled castes and other backward classes and women. They are outcasts of the Varna hierarchy. In the other words, peasants are denoted by the terms like Kisan, Krishak, Raitu, Chashi, etc., more or less indicating cultivators that cultivate land with their own labor, and also the categories namely Adhiyar, Bakashi, that is sharecroppers and tenants, and Mazdoor, Majur, Kuli, Pet, Krishi, Shramik, etc. agricultural laborers. The contemporary peasant movement in India are categorized into two. The first type of movements are those of small peasants, the poor and the marginal. They generally demand to improve the economic condition, for example, demand for wage hike or better working condition. The second type of movements are more prosperous peasants, those who produce a considerable surplus of the rural economy. These movements in social science literature referred to as farmers' movements or new agrarianism or new peasant movements. Let us look at some peasant movements. Telangana peasant movement. As early as in 1947, revolutionary peasant movements had slowly been forming, led by communist leader in Telangana. Telangana was the eastern half of the erstwhile princely state of Hyderabad, comprising 8 districts having an area of 44,000 square miles, populated mainly by the Telugu speaking people. Under the Nizam, a notoriously semi-feudal agrarian system had been perpetuated and the peasantry was ripe with the radical leadership. On the eve of independence, Hyderabad became a large question mark in the heart of India, being a Hindu majority area entirely in the hands of a Muslim sect. In September 1948, the Indian government forcibly marched into Hyderabad and Nizam gave away. When the interim Congress government was set up in Hyderabad, after the merger, the communists refused to surrender their arms and went into underground operations against the government. The communists set in the motion an indigenous mass campaign against the landlords, mainly in the districts of Nalgonda and Warangal. The armed communists emerged at night to murder the landlords and to divide their land among the poor. According to the communist claim, a total 3,000 villages had been Sovietized and 1 million acre of land had been seized. The Indian communist leaders claimed that the Telangana peasant right shook for the first time the main bastions of feudal orders in India to its very foundation, and blazed the path of Indian people's democratic revolution. Looking at the farmer movements in contemporary India, in India today we may say that there are preliminary two types of agricultural mobilizations. One is of the poor agricultural laborers and marginal laborers, and other is of the more prosperous and independent owner cultivators who produce a considerable marketed surplus. The various rural wings to established political parties like the Kisan Sabhas or the agricultural labor unions of the CPI and the CPIM and various factions of CPI-ML generally sponsored these movements. This has led to many observers to underline the sharp class basis of agrarian movements such as in Kerala, where the poorer peasants and the agricultural laborers are in forefront. The second type of farmers movement, not peasants, are like Bharatiya Kisan Union in West Uttar Pradesh, Punjab and Haryana, Shetkari Sangathan in Maharashtra and Rajya Rayota Sangha in Karnataka. The new farmers movement in India gathered momentum in 1970s. Its ripples were first felt in Tamil Nadu, down south, where the Farmers Association had launched a series of agitation demanding fair price for agricultural produce. The leaders like Ramaswamy Naidu mobilized impressive support from the farm sector for its rock blocking and similar type of agitations. The Kisan Union of Punjab was equally active. It demanded higher remunerative price for wheat in 1973 itself and had even asked farmers to boycott mandis, these are market yards, and not to sell wheat to any government agency. The Shetkari Sangatha's emergence in Maharashtra in 1979 happened with a big bang. It first agitated for remunerative price for onion, a perishable produce whose price dropped dramatically during the 1978 and 79 consecutive harvest. The rise of the Karnataka Rajya Rayat Sangha, that is KRRS, under Professor Najuda Swamy leadership was almost simultaneous. The spate of farmers' mobilizations in different parts of India appeared almost as a well orchestrated action, though it was not so. Similarity in problems of farmers faced in Maharashtra, Punjab, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu was very striking though. Save Silent Valley movement. Save Silent Valley movement is a social movement aimed for the protection of Silent Valley, an evergreen tropical forest in the Palakkad districts of Kerala. It started in 1973 to save the Silent Valley Reserve Forest from being flooded by the hydroelectric project of Kerala State Electricity Board. The background of the movement is that the Kunti-Puza is a major river that flows 15 kilometers southwest from Silent Valley. It takes its origin in the green forest of Silent Valley. In 1928, Kanthapuza river was identified as an ideal site for electricity generation and a hydroelectric project of 120 MV costing around 17 crores. The Kerala State Electricity Board decided to implement a Silent Valley hydroelectric project centered on a dam across the Kanthapuza river in 1973. From 1974 to 1975, a very large number of trees were fallen in the area. After the announcement of dam construction, the valley became a central point of Save Silent Valley. Romulus Whitaker, founder of the Madras Snake Park and the Madras Crocodile Bank, was probably the first person to draw public attention to the small and remote area. In 1977, the Kerala Forest Research Institute carried out an ecological impact study of the Silent Valley area and proposed a biosphere reserve. The major actors in this movement were Kerala Sastra Sahitya Parishad, published a techno-economic and socio-political assessment report on a Silent Valley hydroelectric project. The poet activist Sagutha Kumari played an important role in the Silent Valley protest, and her poem Marathinu Stuti, Ode to a Tree, became a symbol for the protest at the intellectual community. Dr. Salim Ali, eminent ornithologist, visited the valley and appealed for cancellation of the project. A petition of writ was filed before the High Court of Kerala against the clear cutting of the trees, and the court ordered a stop to the clear cutting. Dr. M. S. Swaminathan, the renowned agricultural scientist and then the Secretary of Department of Agriculture, suggested that the reserve forest in the area should make into a national rainforest biosphere reserve. In January 1980, the High Court of Kerala lifted the ban on clear cutting. The Prime Minister of India requested the government of Kerala to stop further works in the project area until all aspects were fully discussed. In December, the government of Kerala declared the Silent Valley area, excluding the hydroelectric project area, as a national park. Let us look at another kind of movement, contemporary movement, that is workers' movements. B.P. Wadia, a social worker and the member of Theosophical Society, established the first trade union of India in April 1918 at Madras. The same year, Textile Labour Association was founded in Gujarat. In 1920, the All India Trade Union Congress, ATUC, was formed in Bombay. The ATUC was a broad-based organization involving diverse ideologies. The main ideological groups were the communists led by S.A. Dange and M.N. Roy, the moderators led by M. Joshi and V.V. Giri, and the nationalists who involved people like Lala Lajpat Rai and Jawaharlal Nehru. During the few first years, communists gained considerable control over the ATUC. The Indian National Congress chose to form another union called the Indian National Trade Union Congress, that is INTUC, in May 1947. Another movements that are important in the contemporary movements are women movements. Anti-dowry movements emerged in 1979 and was largely urban based. In 1974, the Committee on the Status of the Woman in India, CSWI, identified dowry has spread to all castes, communities, religions and regions. Dowry has to come to encompass the entire character of gift exchange of the two groups. By 1982, women organizations were insisting that majority of the young bride death is due to the reason of dowry, or the suicide is because of insisting dowry problems. Some organizations like Mahila Dakshita Samiti, National Federation of Indian Women, All India Democratic Women Association, Nari Raksha Samiti, came to oppose the system of possessing a notorious murder of Sudha Goyal. In 1983, High Court sentenced the husband of Sudha Goyal with the penalty and mother-in-law and brother-in-law as life imprisonment. In 1984, government amended the dowry bill and further implementation was in 1985 October. One of the important contemporary women's movement was anti-Arak movement. The movement was started in a small village called Dabugunta in Nellore district of Andhra Pradesh. The main reason for this movement were the successful literacy mission of Nellore districts of Andhra Pradesh. In Dabugunta village, Rosamma was the leader who gave slogan, "Give up drink and wake up from ignorance." They stopped Araks, that is a local liquor, from being made. Anti-Arak community with 24 members blocked the roads, conducted dharnas. Renuka Chaudhary, as the chairperson of the anti-Arak community, played a pivotal role in this movement. On 1st October 1993, Arak was prohibited because of the movement, and the 1st January 1995, selling liquor became offensive. Another important moments in the contemporary movements are Dalit movements. One of the major important social movements was Dalit women movements. The Dalit for Maharashtra launched the Dalit Panthar movement in the early 1970s. Panthar discards the dominant culture and identify for oppressed classes, especially for women. The weapon for this movement was mainly from intellectuals. They fought against Devadasi system. Another incident from Kerala under the leadership of C.K. Janu, she fought for the justice of Wayanad Adivasi people. There are some other Dalit movements like anti-untouchable movements, Harijan movements, Dalit liberation movement. Dalit women participated in these movements. Some associations stand for the justice of Dalit women, that are Rural Community Development Association, Rural Harijan Agricultural Development Society and Association of Poor. Looking at the backward classes movement, the backward classes who suffered from different degrees of relative deprivation became aware of their status with the spread of new liberal ideas and alternative source of legitimacy that were ushered in by British rule and the Indian national movement. They began to organize themselves in different parts of India, establishing new identities based on diverse ideologies. One may identify three kinds of ideologies. First, many castes belonged to the other backward classes, claimed a higher Varna status through reinterpretation and recasting of appropriate methodologies of origin. The Sri Narayan Dharna Paripalana movement propagated by Sri Narayan Guru Swami, developed another variation of this approach of reinterpreting Hindu religion and search for self-determination among the Izavas of Kerala. Until 1935, the Izavas belonged to the scheduled caste category and they formed 26% of Kerala's total population. Until 1935, the Izavas belonged to the scheduled caste category and they formed 26% of Kerala's total population, suffered many religious, economic, educational and political disabilities. A charismatic leader, Sri Narayan Guru Swami, gave them a new religion of one God, one religion and one caste, which transformed their lifestyle and outlook. The second variety of protest ideology was based on the rejection of Brahmanical Aryan religion and culture. The Dravida Kazhagam movement of Tamil Nadu idealized the Dravidian culture and religion and attacked the Aryan religion and culture. For the followers of Dravidian Kazhagam movement, Ravana was virtuous whereas Rama, the incarnation of God, was wicked. The self-respect movement started by Ramaswamy Naikar advocated that his followers should have their own priests. Its leaders worked hard to escape the tyranny of the Brahmin and their culture. The Mahar movement under the leadership of Ambedkar exemplifies a variation of the principles of rejection in protest ideology, namely abandoning Hinduism altogether and embracing another religion, in this case Buddhism. The Mahars have formed an important section of the scheduled caste of Maharashtra, constituting about 10% of that state's population. Dr. Ambedkar vacillated between adopting one of the two themes to identify the fight against the discriminations imposed on the upper caste, whether to stay within the Hindu fold or to abandon Hinduism altogether. He finally resolved the dilemma in 1956 by accepting Buddhism. The third ideology of class conflict provides another secular source of establishing a separate identity as the exploited class. The Dalit Panther movement, fashioned after the Black Panthers of America, emerged among the Mahars of Bombay and Pune in 1972. The Dalit Panthers included all the revolutionary parties seeking to destroy the Hindu caste system. Its declared enemies were the landlords, capitalists and the moneylenders. It aimed at an all-around revolution. In the ideology of the Dalit Panthers, class struggle cannot be separated from an anti-caste Hindu attitude. A very recent contemporary movement is governance movement, or very commonly known as Lokpal movement. The mechanisms available in the regular government are inadequate to check corruption in administrative departments. However, this mechanism has inherent flaws and officers enjoy departmental fraternity with those against whom complaints are made. Political corruption is mounting This is more dangerous than bureaucratic corruption. Among the organs of state, the judiciary has proved itself to have highest credibility in protecting individual rights. However, due to procedural complexities involved in the court cases right from the filing of a case to the delivery of final verdict, there are inevitable delays in justice, which often are considered as denial of justice. The existing devices for checking one elected and administrative officials have not been effective, as the growing instances of corruption cases suggest. The Central Vigilance Commission (CVC) is designed to inquire into allegations of corruption by administrative officials only, but cannot punish the guilty. The CBI, the premier investigation agency of the country, functions under the supervision of the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievance and Pensions under the Prime Minister, and it therefore is not immune from political pressures during investigation. It can be said that CVC is independent but does not have powers, while CBI has powers but it is not independent. As a result, the first cannot punish while the latter cannot investigate fairly. All these have necessitated the creation of an independent and high-powered Lokpal with its own investigation team. Therefore, there is a need for mechanism that would be simple, independent, speedy and inexpensive means of delivering justice by redressing the grievances of people. Entry of Anna Hazare in Lokpal movement. Political corruption is an ongoing problem not only in India but internationally. Transparency International ranked India 95 out of 182 on its 2011 Corruption Perception Index with a score of 3.1. Since 2011, large number of anti-corruption movements have emerged in India in response to the series of scandals that have been exposed by the media. The growing public dissatisfaction with corruption in public life triggered the emergence of a civil society movement that forced the government to initiate the establishment of powerful people's ombudsman, the Jan Lokpal, with the powers to prosecute corruption in even the highest levels of government. One of the most recent social movements witnessed in India was the campaign on India Against Corruption, headed by a group of social activists led by octogenarian Gandhian Anna Hazare. Anna Hazare, a follower of Gandhian principles, opted for fasting unto death and demanded the enactment of long pending Jan Lokpal bill, that is anti-corruption law. The movement considered as a milestone in the constitutional history of India, forcing the government to accept the social society's demand to have a say in the drafting the stringent anti-corruption law, the Lokpal bill. However, after massive protest across the country, a strong Lokpal bill introduced in Lok Sabha, which excluded the top government officials, but Anna rejected it, and the movement continued. And later, the stronger version of the Lokpal bill developed has not passed. On December 27, 2011, the Lok Sabha approved the government's latest version of the bill, and the demand of strong Lokpal by Anna remained a dream. The positive things about this movement are: it is a new wave of patriotism, some of them called a second freedom struggle, led by Anna Hazare, and feel the patriotism associated with the movement. The people of India became the citizens of India. The nation never witnessed such a massive crowd on the streets in the history. We became more responsible, aware and active as individuals as well as groups. The pessimism of the people around the country that nothing could change was transformed into hope that we can change the future of the country, and it is in our own hands. Casteism, political languages, religion all went to the background and patriotism emerged in the forefront. Indian people got to a new method of demonstrating their anger and frustration through a peaceful and non-violent protest. India Against Corruption, led by Anna Hazare, proves that it is an upsurge relatively unique, distinctive and inimitable in nature. It has not only established the deeper connections with the ordinary citizens, irrespective of the socio-economic backgrounds that they represent, but has also brought out the relationships between the state on one hand and civil and political societies on the other. Another contemporary movement is people's movement against a nuclear energy, Kodanakulam anti-nuclear movement. Anti-nuclear movements all over the world have pursued different strategies with the different levels of impact on energy policy. In the West, anti-nuclear movements branched out of environmental movements in the second half of 1970s. These were further catalyzed by several nuclear accidents. The 3 Mile Island nuclear accident in 1979 has triggered several protests in the US and elsewhere. These movements in the West were typically characterized as new social movements. They were different from the classical working class movement. The support base of anti-nuclear movement is typical of the environmental movement, middle classes from suburban regions. The emergence of the anti-nuclear movement in India has been different. It was mainly due to the two events. First, the success of Chipko movement in 1970s, and the second, the Bhopal tragedy, which is in the mid 1980s, raised doubts over industrial safety and hazards. By 1980s, the Narmada Bachao Andolan has also made its presence felt by questioning the construction of dams, displacement of people and related environmental costs. This is influenced by other grassroots movements in India. Thus, the anti-nuclear movement in India was based on issues like livelihood and displacement. Kondankulam is a rather big village with a population of 11,029 in 2001 census, with 2,386 households, of which 944 belong to Dalits. It was situated in the southern part of Tamil Nadu state in Tirunelveli district and as part of the state's coastal line. The main occupation of the people of these villages are fishing. In Kodanakulam, around 80% of the employable workforce is jobless. The Kodanakulam nuclear plant, rooted in 1974, Pokhran tests of India, soon after the tests, India isolated from the West. The US stopped fuel shipments to the Tarapur nuclear power plant after the 1974 test. In 1979, during Morarji Desai's regime, the nuclear deal with the Soviet Union was discussed. The deal was fully concluded when the Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev and Indian Prime Minister Mr. Rajiv Gandhi signed the Kodanakulam nuclear power project deal in 1988. Initially, there was a strong opposition to the Kodanakulam power plant from farmers, intellectuals, fisher folk, scientists and activists. Later, an umbrella organization called the Samatwa Samudaya Iyakam, Social Equality Movement, was formed. People from 3 districts of Tamil Nadu, Tirunelveli, Kanyakumari and Tuticorin organized a massive rally at Tirunelveli in 1988. However, with the disintegration of Soviet Union, Gorbachev losing power and assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, Nuclear Power Corporation NPC declared that Kodanakulam nuclear power project has been called off and the government's permission to set up 2 500 megawatt indigenous reactors at the same time was approved. In March 1997, Indian Prime Minister H.D. Deve Gowda and the Russian President Boris Yeltsin signed a supplement to the 1988 agreement and commissioned a detailed project report on Kodanakulam. Accordingly, Russia agreed to supply 2 standard high pressure VVER 1000 water cooled and water moderated reactors. The initial phase of the movement was centered on the issue of using water from Pechiapparai Dam for the nuclear plant. Later on, when the Kodanakulam plant authorities planned for a recycling and desalination plant on its premises, the issue of water took a backseat and other issues like displacement, radiation hazards and in particular concerns about radiation contaminating the food chain through fish dominate the movement. In the initial phase, many people from Kodanakulam supported the plant as many of them got job and subcontracts in the plant. when it was decided to install an additional 4 reactor in the same plant, certain amount of displacement was required. This made the people of Kodanakulam join protest movement. Earlier, only the neighboring fishing community was part of the movement. The threat of displacement and subsequent loss of the livelihood forced the people of Kodanakulam into the movement. In the light of new developments of people's movement against nuclear energy, PMANE, an umbrella organization was formed. The PMANE argues that the region is rich in thorium and monazite, due to which there is natural radiation that is 40 times higher than the normal level. The movement has also networked with many like-minded organizations both nationally and internationally. Thus, the first 2 units of the nuclear power plant were constructed without a public hearing, but it was demanded for the expansion of the plant. Accordingly, a public hearing was scheduled for October 6, 2006 at the Tirunelveli District Collectorate. However, this public hearing was postponed indefinitely as the activists from Tirunelveli, Tuticorin and Kanyakumari districts protested against the plant and also against the manner in which public hearing was announced. The activists also demanded that the public hearing be held separately in the 3 districts, as people in all the 3 districts would be affected. Finally, June 2, 2007 was fixed as the date for the public hearing. People from the 3 districts came in large number for public hearing. On the other hand, tight security was arranged with around 1,200 police officials all over. The state has not overtly claimed indifference towards the movement, and yet some, like the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, requested the public to stay away from the false campaign. The defense of the state claimed that an amount of rupees 500 crore has been allocated for the rehabilitation and for the development of local people. Yet, these issues have not been addressed properly. The protests that mostly speak about the plant's threat to livelihood prove 2 things: the huge gap between the promises and their execution in India, and the lack of awareness among people on such plans. To conclude on the social contemporary movements, a social movement undoubtedly involves action as distinct from individual action. However, only when the collective action is somewhat sustained, as distinct from a sporadic occurrence, does it take the form of a movement. This collective action, however, need not be formally organized, but should be able to create an interest and awakening in a sufficiently large number of people. The contemporary social movements are generally oriented towards bringing change, either partial or total, in the existing system of relationships, values and norms, although there are efforts that are oriented towards resisting change and maintaining the status quo.